All right, let's get right into it. Bottom line up front for everyone listening today, especially the CISOs and board members we have joining us. Acquiring artificial intelligence security tools? Well, that just isn't our primary challenge anymore. The real structural risk that's threatening the enterprise right now is internal deployment readiness. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a really hard look at the AI deployment gap, and we're going to break down exactly why having access to cutting-edge defensive AI means absolutely nothing if your organization isn't mature enough to actually operationalize it. We're looking at a critical 12 to 24-month window here. And look, the clock is ticking. Okay, let's dive into this roadmap really quick. We're going to cover 1, the AI threat being here, 2, operational defensive capabilities, 3, the deployment gap itself, 4, internal maturity versus external tools, 5, your 6 operational priorities, and finally, your 12-month mandate. Let's jump in. Section 1. The AI threat is here. The offensive cascade has crossed the operational threshold. Now, we really need to create some immediate urgency here, because the idea of threat actors using AI for mass exploitation, it is no longer whiteboard speculation. The rapid escalation is already happening. Look at this timeline. Back in November 2024, we saw the very first AI zero-day discovery by Google's Big Sleep. Then, by July 2025, we had our first AI-driven prevention of an imminent exploit. Fast forward a bit to March 2026, and suddenly there were over 47 vulnerabilities documented in the public tracker. But the real wake-up call? That hits on May 11, 2026. That's when the Google Threat Intelligence Group disclosed the very first confirmed real-world use of an AI-built zero-day exploit by criminal threat actors. They used it to target a two-factor authentication bypass in a planned mass exploitation campaign. Make no mistake, criminals are actively weaponizing AI right now. You know, John Holtquist, the chief analyst over at GTIG, hit the nail on the head. He called this event a taste of what's to come, the tip of the iceberg. And for the executive board, the stakes literally couldn't be clearer. The transition from AI just being some theoretical force multiplier to a fully functional, everyday tool in the adversary's workflow, that transition is completely finished. The bad guys are operating at scale. Section 2. Defensive capability is fully operational, shattering the illusion of symmetry. And this brilliantly illustrates that we are absolutely not helpless in this fight. Genuine, production-ready defensive capability is already shipped, it's being built, and it's currently integrated. This isn't just some flashy research demo. Take Anthropic's Project Glasswing. They've got a massive $100 million committed to scanning critical software, though keeping in mind that's restricted to about 52 partner orgs right now. Google's CodeMender has already upstreamed 72 open-source fixes into internal deployments. Over at GitHub, Copilot Autofix has handled over 460,000 alerts and is resolving vulnerabilities in a median time of just 28 minutes. It's free for open source or $30 a month for enterprise. And Microsoft? They bundled Security Copilot directly into Microsoft 365 E5 for around $57.50 a month. So the firepower definitely exists. We have access to this incredible, well-funded defensive layer right at our fingertips. Moving to Section 3, the dangerous AI deployment gap. Why available doesn't mean deployed. Now, this is where we hit our core structural vulnerability. Having access to those incredible tools we just talked about does not mean your organization is actually equipped to use them. This number right here should stop every CISO dead in their tracks. 73%. According to Microsoft's own data, 73% of enterprises discover critical data exposure risks after deploying Copilot. Just think about that for a second. The AI tool doesn't create the vulnerability, right? It just surfaces the foundational mess that was already sitting there, and it does it way faster than the enterprise can possibly fix it. The capability surfaces the problems, but the enterprise lacks the maturity to actually handle the volume. Let's formally define this for the boardroom. The deployment gap is this structural asymmetry where defensive AI deployment lags behind offensive AI by roughly 12 to 24 months. And why is that? Because effective defense requires deep organizational maturity, robust telemetry, and strict governance. Offense requires only access to the model. So the crucial point is this. AI tools reward well-governed tenants and they ruthlessly penalize elected ones. If your house isn't in order, turning on defensive AI is just going to generate a massive backlog of alerts that you literally can't manage. Section 4. Internal maturity over external tools. Building the true defensive moat. Let's contrast this asymmetry directly. Think of these defensive AI tools as a state-of-the-art high-speed train. that train is completely useless if you haven't laid down the tracks for it to run on, right? On the offensive side, the first item here, the cascade requires only capital and model access. No tracks needed at all. The marginal cost of use is incredibly low, and there's zero need for organizational governance. A bad actor can literally just sit down and start prompting. But the defensive AI cascade? That's a different story. It requires total source code access to actually be effective. It demands robust telemetry to serve as your tracks, so you know if an AI-flagged vulnerability is actually exploitable in your specific environment. And it heavily relies on coordination across the defense ecosystem, like ISACs. Our defensive advantages only exist if we build this internal substrate first. Section 5. 6 Critical Operational Priorities. A concrete playbook for security leaders. Let's move to and see how this builds. We're pivoting right now from philosophical risk directly into highly actionable steps. The big question for the board: how do we actually close the deployment gap before the offensive cascade strikes our organization? What are the immediate priorities we must execute today? Okay, here is your 6-step playbook. Step 1. Deploy what's free. Go enable GitHub Copilot autofix on all your hosted code immediately. The marginal cost there is 0. Step 2. Audit your Microsoft 365 E5 entitlements. Look, if you pay for E5, you already have Security Copilot. Turn it on. Step 3. Apply for Project Glasswing Partner Adjacent Access if you manage critical infrastructure. Step 4, and this is the heavy lifting: invest in the substrate. Ensure your AI tools have full access to your source code and actually build out your telemetry so you can validate findings. Step 5, plan for the volume problem. AI is going to find way more bugs than humans can patch under your old rules. And finally, step 6, architect for breach assumption. We absolutely have to shift our mindset from trying to prevent every single breach to rapidly detecting and containing them. Section 6, your 12-month strategic mandate, updating policy to match AI automation. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast it shows between human-paced legacy operations and the new reality of AI-driven volume. This is your bottom line mandate for executive leadership regarding the closing window over the next 12 to 24 months. We have got to update our policies to match the speed of AI. You must shift from legacy 30-day service-level agreements to automated 72-hour vulnerability patching. Let's be honest with ourselves. Giving a human 30 days to patch a vulnerability when an AI can write a customized exploit in 30 seconds, that is just a losing mathematical formula. You also need to prepare your infrastructure for July 2026, when Project Glasswing releases its first 90-day report. It's going to trigger a massive wave of patches. Ensure your AI-driven security tooling actually has full access to the codebase. And lastly, transition that entire governance philosophy from prevent breaches to detect and contain. I want to leave you all with this final provocative thought. The defensive window is open right now, but the deployment gap is the binding constraint. Will your organization invest in internal deployment readiness in the next 12 months, or will you just become another casualty of the offensive cascade? The tools are waiting for you. The adversaries? They're already moving. The tracks you lay down today will absolutely determine your survival tomorrow. Thank you for joining the strategic briefing. Take this playbook and let's get to work.